there was another match at the weekend, a decent first half against Newcastle, but they really are different class, and getting a result there was always going to be a big ask. So 3-1 the final score. Glenn, let's start with you on this one. Your thoughts on the game? Was it the lack of attacking intent that was the most frustrating thing? Because it went all right for the first 45 minutes, but you just know that we're not going to be able to hang on.
No, I mean, every game this season since Sellers has been in charge where we've been ahead, he's got one tactic, which is defend the hell out of it, which is to basically take off or do away with attacking intent and just try and see out the game. That's all he's got. And it worked against Chelsea and it worked against Leicester before we worked out quite how terrible those teams are. Certainly in Chelsea's case. But what gets me about today's performance is that he tried the same thing last week against Arsenal. It's only 7 days ago. Just tried to defend the hell out of it for the whole of the second half, and that appeared to be what we did today. I mean, Newcastle were very good second half, but there was one stat there's one stat I saw that Newcastle, it was on about 85 minutes. Newcastle had 30 touches in our box, and we'd had none.
Oh God!
And we'd had a corner as well, which just got edited out. So we didn't get a touch when we had a corner. So so that kind of shows where we were. And first half, I thought we were excellent, to be honest. When I saw the 11 players, it's the usual thing. You can't work out exactly where anyone's playing. Are we playing 5 at the back? Is Gineppo left wing back? What's going on there? It was basically the 4-2-2-2 or 4-2-3-1, depending on where your class Alcaraz's positioning. And I thought we had all the on target shots in the first half. For all the hype about Newcastle, they didn't get anything on target. And we scored the goal, and it was decent. First half was excellent, but at half time I just found myself thinking, we've got to survive 45 minutes of Newcastle pressure plus Ruben Sellers making 5 substitutions. We've got to survive all that to get to the end and win the game. And both came true. Newcastle just attacked incessantly. We eventually let in the 1 goal, and then missed a substitution, took over, and it just killed it stone dead. And I'm struggling to think of as a triple substitution. And I think after he'd done that, the ball was in our net 3 times in 5 minutes or something like that.
3 goals in the space of 4 minutes, although one of them ruled out for offside.
One was offside, but we just went to bits. And there's a Benji from the Echo published this lovely touch map of my mate Adam Armstrong, who basically didn't touch the ball because it's again like with Arsenal last week. I made this point last week. It's quite a high quality team that you're playing against, and players like him, Elyounoussi, they're not even good enough to get a touch of the ball, let alone do anything to affect. And it's just levels. We've talked about this during the season. It's just levels, and that we're a strange team. We've got 6 or 7 players who are decent, and we'll see that next year when they end up at other Premier League clubs probably. And we've got so many players in our squad who are so substandard, they drag the whole thing down. And when you've got a manager who doesn't even seem to have one plan that's serviceable, let alone a plan A, a plan B, plan C, whatever. It just all combined. So the second half was entirely predictable. And Newcastle, a team of their level, it improves when you take Anthony Gordon off, whoever you bring on, because he's not quite there yet. And I'm being slightly facetious there because he cost 60 million quid or whatever. But they bought on Callum Wilson.
They were targeting Lianco, weren't they? And that right hand side. They obviously looked at the lineup and went, well, hang on a minute, he's playing at right back, so that's where it's going to be.
He was supposed to be playing at right back, but he was kind of playing right centre back. I don't know if it was a plan or whether he was just drifting in field, but he wasn't getting out wide quick enough to confront whoever had the ball on the left wing, and that's where the first goal came from. But I thought, after a ropey start, I thought he actually did okay. I'd rather have him there than Maitland-Niles, to be honest. And then they brought Maitland-Niles on, and he gave a goal away anyway. So it was 6 and 2 threes, really. So they did seem to be targeting that right wing. But that Isak he's a good player. He's unpredictable, and he will cause lots of people problems, let alone let alone Lianco. But I don't think he was the biggest problem today. But there you go, predictable. We lost 3-1. Taken in isolation, that's not too bad. But it's obviously not what we needed given the situation that we're in.
Yeah, which we shouldn't be in a situation where we're relying on getting a win there. Jacob, decent first half, but just massively outclassed in the second half.
Yeah, I wasn't too taken away with that first half, to be honest with you, because the atmosphere at St James's was flat. I thought Newcastle were pretty poor, really, and it just felt everything was very passive. I thought Southampton were okay, but there was opportunities there for Newcastle, and if they were on form, then I could see them getting a few in that first half. So I didn't think Southampton were great, but they did what they had to do. They managed to break with bodies for the first time, and they managed to score. I thought Suleimana's pace was quite good. Alcaraz causes Ruben Sellers nightmares because he never tracks back, and it's quite interesting. I was only about 10 yards up from Sellers, and throughout, him and Alcaraz were just having this conversation in Spanish about Alcaraz wasn't sure who was marking from throw-ins, and it was back and forth constantly. But then he gets the ball and he carries it. You think, okay, that's why Ruben Sellers keeps going with him, because he seems to be angry with him all the time. There were certain parts, but I never thought Southampton were great, and I don't think they really deserved to win that game. Then the second half happened, and as soon as the first goal happens, Sellers said it afterwards, everything is triggered, all the episodes of all the other painful
mentality,
yeah. And then you look at the players; they're all staring up towards the away fans, even just looking, and I thought, oh no, here we go. it could be damaging. And they have this huddle. I don't know if anyone actually says anything in this huddle because they all really quiet. But yeah, I look at Ward-Prowse. I feel really sorry for him, but I feel sorry for a lot of those players. And Lavia, I think he's one of the young lads. There's been obviously question marks over young players' attitudes, but from what I hear, Lavia is one of the few that actually seeks and asks questions to the experienced players, is always there on time, shows good application, and I think you see that in those last 20 minutes especially, where he was really brave on the ball, and yeah, he was standing up even if a lot of them weren't. I'd have to say Jan Benrick as well. He made up 3 really good blocks.
He was brilliant today.
Could have stopped him from going.
He was superb today.
Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah.
Steve, just on Lavia, I mean, an exceptional young footballer. His attitude, as Jacob said, has been absolutely spot on. You could see that he was really upset at the end, and winning the ball back for that goal. I mean, he's the one shining light still, isn't he? He's still giving it his all, and it's a shame that it's not going to work out for him here.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. We've got what, 4 games left with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, make the most of that, I would say. Yeah, he's been excellent for the most part, despite his young age, where you could forgive a bit of inconsistency, but certainly especially in the bigger games, he's the guy that stands out. Even in kind of what has largely been our better performances, actually, against the bigger sides, he's been the guy that's taken games by the scruff of the neck and has kind of stamped his authority and imposed himself, which for a guy of that age is extraordinary. And he's going to be, I mean, injury permitting, he's going to be some player at an absolute elite club. But whoever wants him in the summer is presumably going to have to pay pretty big money, because obviously we know that City have got this buyback clause that kicks in next summer. So, and he's on a long contract. So in theory, we could dig our heels in and say, well, no, if clubs are coming in and offering us 20 or 30, then we'll just say, no, we'll force him to stay for another year, when City can then come in and give us 40 for him. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the summer. Because you would imagine, I mean, that holding midfield role is probably the hardest to nail down in a team. At elite level, and I mean, you've seen how United have completely flailed for basically a decade since Ferguson left, because they've never had anybody who can play that position well. They've had a few people in who can kind of make do occasionally, but against elite opposition, they then end up found wanting. I think Lavia is the sort of player who could go into one of those top teams now, and perform well. I think the only side he wouldn't get in at the moment, ironically, is City, because they've got Rodri. But he's better than Calvin Phillips, and so he would be the kind of first backup. But I think he deserves to be playing every week. So yeah, Todd Bowley, what how many zeros are you going to put on that check for us?
On his 8-year contract. Glenn, just a quick one on the lineup tombola. It was Stu Adams that came in for the start this time, return of Gineppo as well. Che Adams, I mean, surely he needs to be starting every game. I know he's coming back from injury. He was on the bench. He had half an hour against Bournemouth. And I think afterwards he said they have to manage his minutes and be careful. But we're not talking about a player at the start of the season here, are we?
What are we
We're
saving
running out of games.
What are we saving him for? Be fit
Is there a big testimonial the week after the season finishes?
be fit for the dead rubbers at Brighton and at home to Liverpool.
He's mad. You've got to be starting him, haven't you?
It is, yeah. I mean, he is our best striker. He has been all season, most of last season as well. So if he's fit, he has to play. He should have started against Bournemouth, even if he could only play first half. You know, there seems to be this. My memory goes, is this the first season with 5 substitutes?
No.
It's not. It's the second one. But ever since then, we seem to have gone into this thing.
5 subs came in during COVID. So that project that was the first time.
Yeah. So it seems to be now that all of our managers, well, certainly Ralph and Sellers, have seen, well, we'll win the game in the second half. You know, we're not good enough just to try and win it in the second half. Let's just
choose.
Let's go for it from the start. He should have started against Bournemouth. He should have started today. And as it turned out, we played all right in the first half today, but relatively speaking. But yeah, it was a surprise for me, considering that he'd played against, come on as a sub against Bournemouth, that he wasn't starting today. But yeah, I couldn't work out, as I said, what on earth the lineup was going to be from the 11 players. I mean, you could argue Stuart Armstrong had a good 20 minutes against Bournemouth, so therefore he deserved to start against Newcastle, and he did okay. I mean, Gineppo that's the wild card for today, wasn't it? I mean, he's come in from nowhere. I keep waiting for him to play that position that we gave him a new contract for, because he had a couple of good games there. He hasn't played there since. He hasn't played there since. So he'll be around next season as our third choice left back or whatever. But it's a strange one.
Just on Shea, I got told before Thursday that he could only play 15 minutes against Bournemouth, and he ended up playing half an hour or something. And I think they rushed him back anyway for the Bournemouth game. They didn't think he'll be fit till the start of May, so I think that's probably where the risk is. But yeah, if you probably have to risk him now, don't you?
Yeah.
Talking of, you were talking earlier on about McCarthy and his money situation. I know. And whilst we all know that Tall Paul is not the greatest and probably not the answer, is there anything in the fact that he's now played 9 games? Is there any sort of financial contracty type thing that comes in when he plays 10? Because he's just disappeared from the squad.
I don't think so.
No. I just noticed he'd appeared in 9 games, so I do wonder.
It's just there's question marks on actually fitness as well, and whether he can actually be effective for more than 5 minutes in a game. And I think Sellers is probably looking at it thinking he's probably not fit enough or physically capable of performing more than 10 minutes at an end of the game. So there's no point really putting him on the bench, which when you spend £18 million on the striker, is probably speaking more about the recruitment than Sellers, really.
Another slow hand clap to Rasmus there.
We're going to need a couple of hours, aren't we? At the end of the season, when we do these things that have gone wrong, you're going to have to strike a couple of hours out, because we're going to be there all night for this one.
Let's put Joe Aribo on the bench instead.